Hey Rip City, this is Donovan Clingan. We've got the latest news and the best views right here on the Blazers balcony with Brooke, Olzendam, and Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to these Blazers Balcony presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. Episode 159 of the Blazers Balcony presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I'm your co-host, Casey Holdahl, on location in hot and humid Houston. I'm joined by my friend and co-worker, co-host, Brooke Olzendam at her palatial estate in Southwest Portland. Brooklyn, how you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Yeah, if I could just quickly get out of the way. Again, a thank you to everyone who's been so wonderful. And you, huge thank you to you, Casey, who have taken my spot and been absolutely incredible. We watch everything, obviously. Everything.
Reminding everyone how important Brooke is to the broadcast by mucking up every single broadcast that I've been on. So yes, I agree.
No, you would not.
I'm just busting my own chops here. I appreciate the comment, but no one is more enthusiastic about getting Brooke back into her role than Casey Holdahl, because as I bumble my way through this road trip, again, trying not to screw up the fantastic work of the professionals in our broadcast, every time it's a little nerve-wracking. So thank you, Brooke, for the kind words.
You've been killing it. And I did have a chuckle before we, as Casey and I always do. We actually set a record today. We went through an entire Zoom just chit-chatting before we even started the podcast, and we had to start over because we went too long just chatting. But I was saying to you that I appreciated just like watching you, and like I can tell, like, I mean, you're really thoughtful about everything. And then we were giggling because you're talking about broadcast lingo that you didn't know, and how you're quickly, learning it, like a tag and a toss. A toss is when you throw to sound, and you same toss. And anyway, there's all these things. And poor Casey has had to learn this like minutes before doing it. So you've been killing it, and you did a great job last night. And you had a ton of airtime when you're in your seating position behind Tiago Splitter. You're like literally like every time I looked up, I was like, okay, there's Kate. Look at that little suit he's got on. He's looking great. He's killing it, killing the game. So you've been awesome, and everyone has been wonderful too. And I have to give a shout out to Sidy. And this is so funny that this is happening right now, because I literally heard my dad and my son in the living room 2 seconds ago say, "Oh, Sidy made the top 10." So I believe his reverse dunk made sort of list. Yeah. Sports Center. I'll find out maybe if my dad comes in the kitchen. But he just goes, "Oh, Sidy made it." So Sidy was so cute last night and came up in the pregame show and said hello to me, and it was very cute. And I messaged him and said I appreciated that. And he got back and said, we miss you. And it was like, the most heartwarming thing I've ever seen in my life. And then someone had messaged me, a couple people on Instagram, like, "Did you cry?" I was like, "Of course I cried." It's like we were like sitting at home watching, and Brooke's probably crying right now. I was like, "Of course I was." It was very nice.
That is very nice. And yeah, everyone misses you out here, Brooke, obviously. And yeah, to make it about myself again, one of the reasons why these guys miss you so much is because they have to deal with me now, which is to go from having a nice chat with Brooke before a game to having to talk to Casey before a game is like, I'm just glad the Blazers have managed to go 500 on this trip, because if it had been any worse than that with one game to go versus the Houston Rockets on Friday, I imagine that a lot of finger pointing would have been like, yeah, I would have had a good game, lest I had not had to talk to Casey before the game, bringing me down and just taking all of my mojo and enthusiasm for life and basketball away. So we really miss you, Brooke. I'm just joking too. Like you know, and I mean, Brooke, I know you know how it is, but when you're in the last days of a extended road trip, everything just starts to feel like,
yes,
like I'm just a vessel now for travel. I am still myself, but I'm not exactly the same as I was when we left. And you just become kind of like a dried out husk of who you are. And that's definitely where I would say I am
really
at
making you miss the travel, Casey.
Yeah, aren't you sad you're not here now, Brooke?
I wish I was feeling like a dried out husk right now. I do, but I'm at home, so that's not good. No, I totally understand what you're saying. But no, you're just being you, and you are not giving yourself enough credit. And I know this is just like a funny back and forth, but you've been doing a great job.
Thank you, Brooke.
And,
I will take the compliment. I appreciate that. And it has been fun. And I've really enjoyed working with everyone, and the help from both Greg, shout out to Greg especially, and Kyle have been very helpful for me. And again, and Russ as well too. And all of the various camera guys that I've worked with as well. They're always like, no, you're supposed to stand here. Like, okay, now you did that. Okay, now you're supposed to stand over here. And I think sometimes they're maybe a little reluctant because people like yourself who actually know what they're doing, I'm guessing you guys are kind of like, yeah, guys, I got it. But for me, I'm like, yeah, okay, great. Yeah, where should I stand? Oh, over here. Oh, okay. And then, is this good? Am I holding the microphone right? Is that okay? Should I switch around the flag to? Is it supposed to be on the pinwheel or the rip city? It doesn't matter. Okay. No, stand here. Okay. And maybe you want me to move off a little bit after? Absolutely. Like, I'm like, please, like, any direction you want to give me, I will take it, because I don't know what I'm out here doing. And also, I really wish. I mean, like, I always have paid attention to what you do, Brooke, but I wish I'd paid just a little bit of closer attention to maybe some of the more like nuanced portions of it, which, if I had known this was going to be the way this was going to go, then I probably would have. But I could have better prepared myself a little bit, Brooke. I should have paid closer attention to all the work you put in before the game in order to get up there for 2 minutes and not screw things up.
Well, it's funny, like, on the flip side, let's say like something happened to you and they're like, Brooke, you need to start writing articles. I'd be like, oh, I don't want to, I don't know how to do that. Because, I can write for myself, like for broadcast, but like writing like an article like you do, like so well. And those videos that you've been doing for us this year have been like really like in-depth behind the scenes stuff that you do so well. Like, I wouldn't be a fish out of water if I was in your world. So it's not like you should just know what you're doing and like you're not supposed to. Like, you studied your job and you do your job, and then you're just like thrust into someone else's world. And we have lingo, we have verbiage, we have all the things that like you're like, what does that mean? What does that mean? So I would feel the same way if I was asked to do your job. So
yeah. As we continue upon this road trip, as I mentioned, Blazers out for a 5-game road trip. The last game of the trip, Friday, here in Houston versus the Rockets, 5 o'clock start time on KUNP, Blazer Vision, and 6:20 a.m. Blazers getting back to 500 on the trip by defeating the Grizzlies 122-114 Wednesday night after dropping back-to-back games this weekend versus the Hornets and the Hawks. In a couple of tough games, though. I mean, obviously, everyone knows how well the Hornets have been playing up to and including by defeating the Celtics last night. 10 o'clock game on that one. That was a little bit difficult. And then just a rough go in Atlanta. Team had a few days off. Gets to practice in Atlanta at the overtime.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
So everyone last night was talking about the movie they went to, but no one said the name of the movie, what movie they actually went to.
So I didn't go, but the movie is called The Gates. And I also had other people ask me, and I was like, guys, like, just look it up. And so it's the only thing I know about it, because I didn't go either, because I ended up not going, one, because I wanted to get Gus's fried chicken, and two, I'm just not like a horror suspense movie.
It is. I didn't know it was.
And so my understanding is that one, it was James Vanderbeek's last role before his passing, and two, I guess the premise is it's called The Gates because it takes place in a gated community that idyllic community is not as idyllic as you think. Nefarious things happening. I think James Vanderbeek
is doing it like you're doing a trailer.
Well, I did a little research into it just in case somebody asked me and I had to talk about it. So yeah, so it's called The Gates. It's out now. I believe Jrue Holiday hooked that up. So shout out to Jrue for that. But yeah, I didn't end up going.
Though I did because it was talked about so much. It was like the pregame show. It was like there was like a whole segment talking about going to the movie, and then they talked about it during the broadcast. And it was just like we're sitting there like, what movie?
What movie was it? Yeah, exactly. Also, too, like, they do those things in order to promote the movie, and so I'm sure like whoever is at home who like set up the promotion for it is probably like, say the name, guys, say the name, or I can't check off this box unless they say the name of the movie. So like, maybe they were like, don't say the name of the movie, but anyways, it's The Gates. There you go.
Funny. Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know. I feel so much better now.
So the
I mean,
Blazers do end up bouncing back to get that win versus the Grizzlies in a game that Donovan gets kicked out because he elbows I know I think his last name is Prosper, Olivier
yeah,
Maxwell Prosper or something to that extent.
Prosper.
So he gets kicked out of that game. It's 59-59 going into the half. And the Blazers veterans, particularly Jrue Holiday, Jeremy Grant, and Robert Williams, all really carry the team to a victory, which I thought was cool. I think it indicated to me that like these guys know what it means to be playing basketball at this time of the year and basketball that like they need to win, and so it felt to me like a game that those guys with more experience and more of a responsibility for the team in general really kind of realized like, okay, guys, we're going to need to maybe do a little bit extra in this one in order to give ourselves a chance. And they end up coming out having a much better second half. Jrue gets a season high, I think, with 35 points, ties his career high with, I think, 8 3-pointers. Jeremy had 30 points. Rob had 20 points, I think, and like 11 or 12 rebounds. And they're able to get that victory, maybe not going away, but, towards the end of the game, you felt comfortable about them getting that one to get back to 500 on the trip. And that's something that Jrue has now mentioned multiple times. He mentioned it before we went out on the trip, actually, and then he mentioned it when I talked to him after the game in Memphis on Wednesday, is that we want to win this trip still. And to win this trip, we obviously had to get this game versus the Grizzlies in order to at least get to 500 on this trip, and now we at least give ourselves a chance to end up better than 500 on this trip if we're able to go into Houston on Friday night and get that game versus the Rockets team that they have beaten twice this season at Moda Center. So I thought that, that's something that obviously Jrue has been thinking about, and I'm assuming probably talking about amongst the team, that like, hey guys, if we're going to give ourselves a chance to go up the standings here a little bit, which the Blazers are currently in 10th, but I would say at least 8th is a possibility with the Warriors. They're only 2 games back behind the Warriors. Clippers in between the Blazers. The Blazers 1 game back from the Clippers right now as well. So still a chance for this team to improve their lot going into potentially a play-in game. And I think that's something that they're cognizant of and are talking about. And I think you saw it in the second half versus the Grizzlies, that they're like, hey, if we're going to potentially move up, now is the time we need to start making that move. And Deni out and Donovan gets tossed, which we can talk about a little bit more because a lot of the players in the post game, not necessarily mad with the call that Donovan got called for, but mad about kind of all the run up to it that they felt like ended with Donovan getting a flagrant 2 and getting tossed from that game. So they have a concerted effort in the second half that allows him to get that win, that allows him to, as I mentioned, preserve the opportunity to finish by 500 going into the last game of the trip. And you're able to do that going back home at Moda Center for a week of games before heading back out for another extended trip. Then I think you put yourself at least on a good footing going into this little homestand to perhaps win a few more games and see kind of where you flesh out in the standings here after the next couple weeks.
Quick question again. What was the deal with Matisse getting his second technical of all time?
So actually, Travis explained this to me on the flight before we left Memphis because I kind of missed it. So we sit, courtside or pretty close to courtside in Memphis. So I didn't have a real good advantage of what was happening. I saw Matisse kind of like, again, I wouldn't even say arguing with the official, but just kind of stating his case. So what happened was they had called a foul on Matisse, I think on Maxwell Prosper under the basket, and they gave him 2 shots for it. And so the Blazers were all like, and particularly Matisse was like, wait, why is he shooting? Like that wasn't a shooting foul. And if you go back and look at the foul, like there is no way that you can honestly say that should have been a shooting foul. And so Thiago was like, what's going on? And Matisse, I did have a really good view of Matisse's face, and Matisse is a pretty smart guy, is pretty good at expressing himself. And so he was, I think, in his most respectful way that he could, talking to the official about, like, again, like, why is this guy shooting free throws? And I think the official said something back to him. Matisse was like, well, yeah, fine, but like, that's not a shooting foul. And I think it was one of those instances where you make a mistake and you don't want to admit that you made a mistake. So then you exacerbate that mistake by kind of being pissy about it. And I think that's kind of what we saw there. And so that's my understanding, at least, is why Matisse got the technical, because he was arguing rightfully that it should not have been free throws, though they did end up missing those 2 free throws. So, as the old saying goes.
We're watching it, and I remember us all saying, like, why are they shooting? And then, like, it was kind of off camera what happened with Matisse. So, like, I was just kind of, what just happened? And then I said, I don't know if Matisse has ever had a technical. And my dad looked it up, and I guess he got one in 2022 for, like, when flopping started becoming a really big deal, like the officials were like really, on it. So apparently that's the only one he's ever had other than last night. So we did our research on that. But the Donovan one, I'm interested to hear what the guys are saying about that, because Donovan's a feisty guy. We love that about him, but he's also like just physically, when he's that tall with his elbows and he moves, it's normally the area where other people's heads are. I'm not saying that I'm not like making excuses, even though I do tend to do that for our players. I always have their back, but
that is part of the job. If we're being frank, I don't
know. I'd have to talk to Donovan about it. But like we were all watching and we're like, oh well, yeah, I see why they would call that. But like, it was hard to like, you know what I mean? It was one of those like, okay.
Yeah. When I saw the replay, I was like, yeah. Okay. So the players, and again, so Rob mentioned it, Matisse mentioned it, Jeremy mentioned it, and Jrue mentioned it as well, that they felt bad that Donovan got thrown out. And their argument was that he was getting hacked up one side and down the other for the entire first half, was not getting any calls. And I remember explicitly, like, there was one time where like they called a foul. I don't even know if it was against Donovan. It might have actually been when Matisse got the technical. Donovan was just like standing at half court with his hands on his hips, laughing. They like, I don't know what else I can do but laugh right now. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, Donovan's he's there's something like in excess of what typically he endures during a game is going on right now. And as a big guy, you're going to get hacked. You're going to have guys draped on you, particularly, the Grizzlies are a team that doesn't have a whole lot of size right now. And so the Blazers were really trying to utilize Donovan, and the Grizzlies were also trying to kind of slow him down. And so everyone on the Blazers side felt that he did get thrown out. I think some of the guys didn't feel like it was a fair ejection, though. Again, like, you make clean contact with a guy's chin. And it was even like, he kind of did it one time and didn't, and then the second time. Like, if he had gotten the first time, he probably gets a flagrant 1. I think there's a chance he doesn't get a flagrant 2. But the fact that he kind of like did it once and then like followed through the next time and also happened to catch him right in the chin, that was the one for me where I was like, yeah, that's I'm not going to be surprised necessarily if he gets thrown out there. But the players, again, their opinion was that like, hey, there was so much leading up to that you guys allowed to go, that you can't necessarily see a guy react in that way and then say like, what are you doing? It's like, yeah, it's because all the stuff that led up to that went uncalled. And everyone knows, like, it's never the first guy who gets caught. It's the guy that retaliates who gets caught. Yeah. And so
we were laughing because Michael Holton in his in the pregame show, they do like blazing hot take. And his was that Donovan was going to get his first 2020 game. And so we were like on it, like the whole, like when the game started, we're like, okay, who's keeping track of his rebounds? Okay, I'm keeping track of, like, Theo was in charge of the rebounds. And so when he got kicked out, we're like, well, there goes our 2020 guy. Like, we were so excited. Like, our whole night was so excited about like having Donovan get 2020. And then when he, obviously that wasn't going to happen. So we're like, well, I guess we'll just hope for a win now. Because we were all about the 2020 night. We're like, it's going to happen. Michael Holton called it. And then that was not going to be the case. But
I don't know that I would say. I did also notice, so when I was getting on the bus to go to the game, so another part of me having to fill in for Brooke is that I've been going to the games earlier because I want to make sure that I'm there in time to get set up and to have nervous flop sweats for 10 minutes before we go live. And so I've been going a little bit earlier, and like, so that's the bus that a lot of the players ride, including Donovan. And I get on, and I'm, usually I wear sweatshirts to games. And I think by the 4th game, people have started to notice, like, oh, yeah, why is Casey wearing suits right now? And Donovan even said, he's like, oh, you look nice. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm just trying not to screw things up too bad. And he's like, you're doing a good job. And I was like, hey, Donovan, thanks. I appreciate that. Like, he seemed, I remember thinking, I was like, boy, Donovan seems really relaxed right now.
Yeah.
And then,
awesome.
so So for it to go that way too, it's
you're like, wait, I thought he felt well.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think
he
it's
probably
just been
started the night out relaxed. He's always relaxed. He's the most relaxed guy until the game start. I mean, he's not that he's not relaxed during the game, but like we always laugh about it. You know, he's in the locker room, he's in the weight room, singing or dancing at all times.
Yeah, like
I mean, he's just like happy to be there. You know, he's just a like loving life kind of guy. But he takes playing seriously. Like, you know, and I love that about him. How he can be like just jolly for the most part of it, and then when the game starts, he's not jolly anymore. No. And I love that about him.
Yeah, no, he's definitely one of those guys where, yeah, like when you see him on the court, or when like you talk to him on the court, and granted, we're not on the court, but like when you're just even in like a game setting, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm just going to slowly back up here and
Zach Collins-esque.
It's
which I
Rob
also
was like Rob Lopez was like that too. He was a guy where like good dude, but like as soon as that whatever that thing is, it's like a shark, you know, like their eyes like go black, and then it's just like I don't even know who I'm talking to right now. Like you are
it's like the Gates. It's like the movie The Gates.
It's like not that I would know because I wasn't there, but which I was. So I remember we had one of those a few years ago in Dallas, and I think maybe it was one of the Black Panther movies. I think that we all.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah.
And the thing I remember the most about it though is that in this part of the country they have, and maybe they have this in Oregon, but I've never seen it. The popcorn butter is like self-serve.
Oh yeah.
So like you can get your popcorn and then you can like add butter on, and like I'd never seen one of those before in a theater, and I was like, wow. So they just have this like vat of butter there that like you can then put. I was like, I didn't even. And then when I saw the photos, I was like, oh, they have that there too.
Before.
We have talked about
it because I the first time I went, I just like I didn't know what was happening either, and I got a full thing of popcorn. And then I went, put it on because I love movie theater butter. Oh, just like it's a problem. And then I'm like, wait a second, you know what I got to do next time when I come to one of these? Just get it filled half, then go put the butter on, and then go back and get the second half, and then you put the butter on the second half so that it's evenly dispersed. And that's the end of the story. But I was like, that's a really great trick. I got to remember that next time.
Yeah.
But they should do that, because you know how it's very shameful to be like, would you mind putting butter halfway through and then filling it up, like asking them to physically do it? Like it takes a little out of your soul. Like I can't believe I'm asking this.
Like I'm going to tell this 16-year-old, hey, okay, so I have some stipulations about how I would like the butter put on my popcorn. But you're exactly right too, Brooke, because it's like you've got this big tub of popcorn, putting butter on the top. Like, I mean, that's not going to work. Like, it's not like a liquid. It's not like it like filters to the bottom of the popcorn or anything. In fact, it's the opposite of a liquid. It's like it soaks everything up. So like you got to have the ability to do your own butter dispersal as you see fit. I agree. Unless it's that kid that there's that video of. It's like a social viral video. It's there's this kid working at a movie theater. He's filling up the popcorn. He's like spinning the popcorn and like throwing it like he's like Tom Cruise in Cocktail, like throwing it in the air and like spinning and like catching it behind his back. And it's like, man, this kid is. When people talk about like quote unquote unskilled labor, it's like you tell me that's not skilled. That is a skilled craftsman right there. That young man knows his job and knows how to do it with flair. And that is.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I wonder where he's at today. Hopefully he's turned that into something. Like
maybe he's that Zaslav guy. Maybe he's running Netflix now or Paramount or whatever people are freaking out about.
My dad's here, so I have to ask him what was the City play that was on? Was it?
We watched that whole game. That was fun.
Oh, you didn't see the? Oh, I don't know where you were. We saw it. Yeah.
You made the number 2 play.
It was number 2.
Hey, awesome! Way to go, Sidy.
It was an amazing play. I was like, dang.
They were butchering his name last night too, and Rasan was sitting right in front of me. Rasan being our VP of basketball PR, and like they called him like Sidy Cissoko. Like he extrapolated Cissoko out for like 3 more syllables, and I looked at Rasan and I was like, he's like, I literally told him how to say Cissoko like 5 times. And again, that no shade to the PA guys. There's a lot of names.
There's a lot of names.
I still have to spell out Krejci phonetically just to make sure that I say it the right way. But yeah, like it wasn't even close. Again, it was like Sidy Cissoko, and I was like, all right, man. It was like if like if Snoop Dogg was making a song and he was Sissoko, Sizzle.
And what's funny is his name is essentially phonetically like if you just when you look at it and say it, it's how it looks. That's why like when people say how do you see your last name Olzendam, I'm like it really is just how it looks. I know it looks very daunting when you see it, but it's Olzendam, just like how it looks. And Sidy Cissoko is truly, if you just look at it and say what you think it should sound like, it's Sidy Cissoko. But it is. There's a lot of S's and C's.
There are, but you're right. But also it's a name that it makes sense. It's got a nice flow to it. Sidy Cissoko. There's like a fluidity to it, like Casey Holdahl. It's like, like it starts and stops and like, or Olzendam. Yeah. Like, it's like, they're fine names. Don't get me wrong. I very much like my family name, even though they added an extra H to it at some point in time for some reason. The
H. It took me years to figure.
The second H really throws people off. So like if you ever play any like FIFA soccer games and you play as Finland or Norway, every single player, so their last names all end Dahl.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about that because I know more soccer players than I used to because of my son, and I can think of a few that ended.
Yeah, I don't feel like the Scandinavians have had, except for that big guy with the huge head, Holland. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I love him.
He's a bit scary to me. Like he looks like something in between man and something else. I don't know.
I have said this numerous times that I am not sure, and I cannot think of many men that I feel this way about. I can't tell if he is extremely, amazingly good looking or the scariest human I've ever seen in my life. It's one of the two.
I feel like that's such a thing right now. I've noticed that people have talked about the dark-haired guy on your hockey show.
Because
I look at that guy and I see like a lumpy face and kind of like flared nostrils. But then other people are like, oh no, he's so good looking. But I've also seen people now being like, I don't know. Same thing with the Welsh British guy who dated Sabrina Carpenter for a little bit there.
Oh, that's a good one.
That guy. Like again, it's like, I mean, like, I don't. Yeah, same thing. It's like, are you really good looking or a troglodyte? Like, it's hard to tell which one. Like. And I'm not in any place to pass judgment because, it's not my thing necessarily, but I feel like I have a good sense of like what a good looking man looks like. And then I see those guys and I'm like, really? Like, oh okay. Right. Like, I'm not, you ladies know what you like, but like.
That is so true that the guy, you're so right. The guy that Sabrina Carpenter dated, I cannot think of his name right now, but,
and he's supposedly playing Cillian Murphy in they're doing a Peaky Blinders movie, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like I just look like a young Cillian Murphy, anyways." And I was like, "Hold up, young man. Let's because again,
Cillian Murphy
that's an attractive man. I don't know, man. Like again, if the fact you were dating Sabrina Carpenter would lead me to believe that you are, but like I don't know, man. Like I'm just not seeing it. I don't know.
She doesn't like him anymore, so
yeah.
We can have any feelings and thoughts about him that we want because she's over him. She dropped him like a bad habit and then wrote a bunch of songs about it.
Yeah. Hey, that's good business.
It's very good business. That's the best business you can be in. My dad and I were doing pop culture trivia last night because we were just bored. And he's like, oh, I found this website. And so he asked me like 30 straight pop culture. And one was like, when Ticketmaster broke down because the concert was so hot. It was like Taylor Swift, obviously. And we went through it. And I knew so many. And he's like, should I be proud of you or not that you know all of these? Like, this is scary how much you know about like silly things you shouldn't know anything about. I'm like, I know, it's the problem. It's pop culture. I mean, if you just give me a trivia, I know way too much. It's not, I don't know. We decided he maybe shouldn't have been proud of me for getting all of them correctly, but Sabrina Carpenter was an answer as well.
Yeah, probably. I'm trying to remember what that guy's name is now, and I put in the stupidest search.
All you gotta do is put Sabrina Carpenter ex-boyfriend, right?
He was also in that Saltburn movie.
Oh God, that movie was so
I mean,
crazy.
which I did not watch. Barry
Don't
Keoghan.
watch it.
There we go.
Barry. Of course, his name is Barry.
Yeah.
No, never watched that movie. It was totally oh, I can't believe I watched it. Oh, no. Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
I guess you would maybe call people like that like Two-Face. Like there was that Seinfeld episode about people looking different, like in one light compared to the other. And as far as Trailblazers go, they've signed two different two-way players on this last road trip. Portland Trailblazers signing Jason Kent and Chris Youngblood, both guards, to two-way contracts on this road trip. Sidy Cissoko got promoted, so that opened up one spot. Team ended up waiving Javonte Cook. Javonte, best of luck. Was really nice to know you. But the Trailblazers doing a bit of business here. I think the deadline to sign new two-way players was last week, and the Blazers doing that, getting, as I mentioned, Jason Kent, who's been playing for the Remix, and Chris Youngblood, who's been playing for the Oklahoma City organization for a couple seasons now. So the Blazers adding those two-way players to Caleb Love, who has been playing with the Remix. He's still got, I think, 4 or 5 games left that he can still play before he hits that 50-game limit. But the Trailblazers, just, I think to be certain that they have players available should anyone get injured, which has obviously been a problem for the Trailblazers this season. And I think maybe just kind of trying to find guys who maybe their skill sets are maybe just a little bit more aligned with what the Trailblazers are looking for right now, going ahead and signing 2 of those players. So Jason Kent, as I understand it, has stayed with the Remix. Chris Youngblood is with the team here in Houston. He was on the bench and active for the game versus the Grizzlies, and at least I believe he was active. I think if you're on the bench, you're active at this point, basically.
Well, he hung out with Jeremy Grant in the post-game interview.
That's right. Yeah, so he didn't play, but he was active, so I think that counts towards his games. And my understanding, too, is that it's prorated, so you don't get 50 games at this point in time in the season because, obviously, 1, there's not 50 games left, and 2, I think the idea being that they don't want teams necessarily try to, game the system with two-way players. So they are prorated, but I don't know exactly what that proration is. I imagine maybe it's 50 divided by 80 times the amount of games you have left, which would give you an accurate ratio of games to, doesn't matter. Either way, the Trailblazers signed 2 new two-way players. I'm guessing that once the team gets back to Portland, maybe both those guys will be active at various points in time.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to getting to know them as well, and meeting them, and then getting to know them. But yeah, I thought it was cute last night. I'm curious what the backstory is with Jeremy and Chris Youngblood, because he's like, he said to Kevin Lamar when he started doing his interview, because it took him a while to get there. He was talking to a bunch of other guys from the Grizzlies, and he said, "Were you good? Are you ready to go?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got Youngblood with me, and he's going to be here with me for the post-game interview." And he just stood there. It was like, "Oh, that's nice." And then Sidy came up and stood there as well, which was hilarious. So it was a very interesting, active, entertaining walk-off interview. But so I'm wondering if they have maybe, I don't know. I'm curious how they know each other, but it seemed as though they had some sort of backstory because he brought him with him. Or he was just being nice, hey, this is our new guy.
Being hey, we got to introduce you to people. I could see Jeremy doing that too.
Yeah, I can see him doing that too. But yeah, I always get excited when we got new guys on the team because it's fun to, get to know them, their backstory, and then it's always there's little things pop up. You're like, oh, I didn't know this about him, and there's always just great stories on anyone's journey to the NBA. So I'm looking forward to getting the chance to catch up with them and see what they're all about. And it seems as though at least Chris Youngblood looked pretty excited to be there. So he's
1-0 in his Trailblazers career. So shout out to you, Chris Youngblood. You're a perfect win percentage. So
and a sick name.
Yeah, it's a good NBA name. It just is. And Jason Kent is too, actually. Especially Jason with a Y. That's the NBA way to spell Jason, as I understand it. So yeah, no, it's I best of luck to both those guys. And I think it just seems to me like two-way guys have really taken on more of an importance in the NBA over the last couple seasons. I think as every team tries to figure out kind of what's the best way to manage players' minutes while also making sure that you're still competitive? What's the best way to not have players kind of deal with injuries that end up taking a long time to heal, which I think, the entire NBA is trying to get their arms around the idea of like calf strains and like why do guys keep missing so much time with those? And I just think there's more and more of an emphasis on like, hey, let's bring in some two-way guys, and there's lots of guys that can play. And as the Blazers I've seen this year, they got some great production out of both Sidy and Caleb, and Sidy earning himself a full contract. Obviously, Dwop, a few years ago, getting promoted as well, which there was a great comment on a recent podcast that we had on YouTube that someone was saying that they already missed the Dwop Reith read into the this is Dwop Reith, and you were listening to the Blazers Balcony with Brooke Olzendam.
Oh, that's so cute. We love Dwop. We are Dwop's fans here.
We are. So yeah, it's just really like the two-way program. I think, when you kind of look at the things the league has done throughout the past couple of years, the changes that they've tried to make to, they've done all kinds of different things, from obviously the play-in tournament to, having the 65 game rule, which by the way, as well, we'll talk about here in a second, Deni Avdija potentially coming back very soon, but I think he's only one game away from hitting that number to where he would not be eligible for some postseason awards. And I think a lot of us kind of, I think he's at least a candidate for most improved. So we'll kind of have to see how that shakes out. But of all the kind of changes that the NBA has made in the last couple seasons, it really seems to me like the two-way program has probably worked out the best. It seems to me like it's good for the players who are, maybe have talent, but maybe just not exactly get kind of the numbers crunch that you have when you only have 15 roster spots available, which expanding that to 18 and giving those guys a chance to play with the NBA team while also spending time in the G League. Just seems like it's really worked out well for both sides. I think it works well for the teams, obviously. I think it's worked well for the players. And so it's nice to see a program actually work out for the NBA. So that's one that has worked. And we saw a flurry of two-way signings, this last week, because I think, again, teams have really realized there's a lot of talent available out there and there's only so many spots in the NBA. And sometimes 15 guys, particularly if you've got multiple guys out for an extended period of time, is just not necessarily enough in today's NBA. So it seems to be working out well. And I wish both those guys the best of luck.
And side note, but how interesting was it to see them play Ryan Repair?
I know. As soon as
it was weird for me.
So he got a 10-day, and then I think the end of his 10-day was that game, and so a lot of us assumed that Ryan was going to play. Then we realized, like, oh no, wait, his 10-day is up. But then in the middle of the day, they signed him to a two-way contract, which I'm assuming that wasn't an option for the Blazers, because I imagine that maybe there would have been some interest in doing that. But yeah, really glad to see Ryan catch on there, and he'll do great for that Grizzlies team, and I imagine we're probably going to play quite a bit for them.
And wouldn't it be great to finish this road trip off with a win? I mean, Houston is obviously stacked, has a ton of talent, but I just love that, coming off the win over Memphis, that hopefully they can carry on something with that, some momentum. It just seemed like, well, I didn't even get a chance to talk about Jrue Holiday. My God, Jrue Holiday against Memphis was insane.
He was
absolutely insane.
Say more about that, Brooke. He was great.
I just can't. I don't even. I'm struggling to find words, and this is a podcast. But he was like the threes. Every time he shot it, like even Kevin Lamar mentioned this. Like he was stepping back. Like he was like stepping back before he shot. Like it was a step back threes, and they were incredibly deep, and it was just, I felt like everything was going to go in, and they all seemed to go in. But you mentioned earlier, to your point about how the veterans were just like, okay, we're not walking out of this gym without a win. It just felt like him and Jeremy Grant and also Raul. But Jrue was just on another level. And I remember there's a whole segment in the pregame show about how well he's been playing recently in his shooting and how well he's been shooting. And I was like, I feel like he's feeling it right now. And then just to watch him go out and have a game like that was just like, my mind was blown. And so it was fun to watch. And Jeremy also was fantastic. But the way Jrue was just like, every time we were laughing, we were like, just shoot. Don't even pass it. Just shoot it. Jrue was like, every time, just shoot it yourself. When it was kind of getting close to the game was getting a little too close for comfort. we were like, we just want Jrue to shoot it every single time it goes down the floor. But he was incredible.
Well, when you shoot 8 of 11 from the 3-point line, you should pretty much take any 3-point attempt that they're willing to give you. As you mentioned, Brooke, he played 32 minutes, scored 35 points, a season high for Jrue Holiday, 13 of 19 from the field, 8 of 11 from 3 to go with 11 assists, 5 rebounds, and a steal, as I mentioned, in 32 minutes. And you're exactly right, Brooke. He has been playing so well on this road trip. It's been unfortunate that they haven't been able to, or at least they weren't able to get the 2 games versus the Hawks and the Hornets. But Jrue has been fantastic. And again, I think it just speaks to the idea that a guy like Jrue, who has a lot of years in the league and has a lot of success, has a championship pedigree, is an all-NBA guy, it will someday be in the Hall of Fame. Like, he just knows what it takes at this point in time in the season, the kind of emphasis and the focus that you need in order to be successful when the games really start to matter, as they do for the Portland Trail Blazers right now. So it really feels to me like he has stepped up his game because he realizes the time and situation that the Blazers are in right now. And I think for a guy like Jrue, who, again, has had a lot of success in his career, you know, he wants to be a part of this team getting into the play-in, if not the playoffs. And so I think he's kind of taken it upon himself a little bit more to do that, as particularly with Deni Avdija being out, Shaedon Sharpe being out. I think that Jeremy and Jrue and Rob, all those guys realize, like, yeah, we all probably got to do a little bit more right now if we're going to have any success late in the season. And so for Jrue, particularly on this trip, to play as well as he has been phenomenal. And I don't think they get a single game on this trip without Jrue's play as of late. And it's funny you talk about the step backs too. Like, they were talking about it in the locker room after the game. Like, Jeremy was like asking Jrue, how do you shoot step backs? And the idea with Jeremy was kind of like, I want to start shooting step backs, because if you kind of think about the way that Jeremy plays, like, he doesn't shoot those.
No.
I listen and I make sure guys know that I'm listening, but because you don't want them to feel like you're like listening in on their conversations. Yeah. But then also there's always an inclination to be like, well, I want to say something here too, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let these guys kind of talk, because I was thinking about it. So I was like, Jeremy, like, you're so like lanky and like angular. Like, I don't know what you trying to take a step back would look like, because like, you know, like the ball kind of gets out wide sometimes with Jeremy. And it's like, yeah, it was like, that's a lot of like arms and legs to have to move back in one kind of fluid motion. Like, Jrue is, you know, he's compact and like you can kind of see it. And he was talking about, he's like, well, like sometimes, you know, you do a step back, sometimes it's about a side step. And what I was thinking too is that I had recently talked to Rob about blocking 3-point shots, because Rob leads the league in block 3-pointers this year. And so the idea being that, like, well, how do you do that? And he's like, you got to kind of like bait guys into it a little bit. Like, you have to kind of like act like you're giving them space and then hope that they kind of see that space and try to get into their shot. But I know that that's what's happening. And so like, I'm reacting like right when he goes into that move, because I'm trying to get him to do that. And it kind of wrapped things up for me on the last couple of games. So I was like, oh, I was just talking to Rob about that. And now you guys are talking about, you know, the step backs that you've taken, and Jeremy's talking about like, I want to start doing that. Like, how do I do that? Like, and, you know, obviously Dame, you know, not playing this season, but one of the all-time great step back 3-point shooters. So just a fun little locker room there. And yeah, you're exactly right, Brooke. The way that Jrue has played on this trip really has steadied this group. And that's, you know, particularly after you have a couple losses like they had versus the Hornets and the Hawks. And the Hornets loss, it was competitive. They ended up getting kind of outlegged in the fourth quarter. The Hawks game, not really the case. Like that one was a blowout. And so I think when you have back-to-back games like that and you're on the road and you know your place in the standings, and when you lose back-to-back games like that, no one feels good. You know, like everyone's kind of like, well, that stinks. And then you got a couple days off before you play again. And so you're kind of thinking about it over and over again. And I think that's when it's really important, particularly when you're on the road on an extended trip, to have guys like Jrue Holiday who kind of understand the situation and can calm a locker room down, and also take on some of that responsibility on their own and say like, hey, I'm going to kind of put this on me a little bit, and I'm going to maybe look for mine a little bit more than I would otherwise, because I understand the situation that we're in. And I know that we're going to have to do a little bit extra now to kind of get out of this little funk that we're in, because that's generally what it takes. Like when you've had a couple games where you're just not feeling great about it, like you got to go above and beyond in order to kind of get out of that. And I feel like Jrue has done a really good job of doing that. And again, that's why he's been the guy who's been most adamant about needing to win this trip. And again, like, Jrue's got championships. He's been there. Like, and for him to be like, we really need to try to win this trip in order to put ourselves in a better spot. That's what you need on a team, particularly a young team, particularly a team that's enduring some injuries, particularly a team that's on the road for an extended road trip, who's also going to be going out back again on another road trip here in another week and a half. So really great stuff out of Jrue, and really just good to see. It's been just kind of an up and down season for a number of guys, and for Jrue to really play as well as he's been playing lately, I think has been really nice.
I mean, it's his value. I always feel weird saying that, like, they're not human. They're humans and people, but the value of his leadership and his experience is so important. And like you mentioned, in a time like right now, like that the value of Jrue Holiday is showing itself in real time. As you mentioned, that this team is kind of like, it's time to win. Like we there's only so many more games left in the season, and as someone who's been there before and knows that feeling, it's just it's pretty impressive to watch. Like, you're just watching him like click in his mind, like, okay, time to turn it on. Okay, it's go time. It's Jrue time, And it's been really fun to watch. And he's just, as you mentioned earlier, like the adult in the room. Like that's who he is. He's a veteran leader, and you're seeing it right now. Like what the front office saw in Jrue and what they needed from him for this team's success, and it's happening like as we speak. We're seeing it right now in action, Jrue Holiday. And so thank goodness for Jrue right now. He's just been killing it.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up this edition of the Blazers Balcony, presented by our friends at Spirit Mountain Casino, as we've mentioned multiple times, one game to go on this trip. Trailblazers facing the Houston Rockets here in Space City, or whatever they're calling Houston these days. 7 o'clock start time local time, 5 o'clock start time back in Portland. Not entirely sure what Deni Avdija's status is going to be for that game. We will find out here in a couple hours. But he has been improving. Thiago Splitter mentioning, after the game versus the Hawks, that Deni was getting close. He did go through the practice the team had in Atlanta on Tuesday, ended up not playing on Wednesday, but did go through a pretty good pregame workout, I thought. So I think a potential that he returns in that game. Same with Chris, who's been dealing with that illness. That's the other thing on this trip. Everyone has been kind of getting sick here and there. Like, particularly at the start of the trip, Donovan missed some games. You had some staffers who, are wearing masks and sitting in the back of the plane with us because that's where they put the sick people. Particularly at this point in time in the season, that can just kind of like take it out of you a little bit too, particularly when you've played as many games as the Blazers have played since the All-Star break. Now, granted, they did get that break, so I think they've they're rested at least now, but like it did feel like we've played a game every other day. We've had 2 trips. Guys are in and out of the lineup because they're sick. Guys are missing some games because of injury, and so everyone just kind of like having to do a little bit more. So hopefully the Blazers getting Deni Avdija back here sometime soon. If not in the game versus the Rockets, then hopefully at least by the time the Blazers face the Pacers on Sunday when we're back home at Moda Center. And obviously that would give the Blazers a much better chance of winning that game if Deni Avdija is available. I don't know if some of you recall, the Blazers did play the Rockets in back-to-back games in Portland earlier this season. Blazers getting both of those games. Deni Avdija playing fantastic in those games, and some talk about his ability to draw fouls, and then he had a kind of a long statement about the way he plays, and so just a little something extra in that game versus the Rockets, in which every Rockets game I feel like, particularly in Houston, always has a little bit something extra to it as well. I know that longtime listeners or readers of my work will perhaps remember that I always single out the folks in Houston as some of the more, I don't even know the right word, the fans that present themselves a certain way. I don't know. Like it just like the stuff I hear from the fans in the crowd always just grates on me a little bit more in Houston. Memphis is the same way, but mostly it's because of the Southern accents in Memphis. And there's always like some guy who like sits behind the Blazers bench who's like, come on now, refs, call the foul. And that always, I'm just like, all right, foghorn, leghorn, like let's dial it back here a little bit. But something about Houston, I think it's from maybe like earlier in my career, the Blazers played Houston a bunch in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
But either way, like a game that the Blazers are going into with, a chance to finish better than 500 on this trip. If they go 3-2 on this trip, I think you feel they've had a successful trip. And if they don't, it's not like it was a bad trip, but maybe just not able to take advantage of it as much as you would like. But either way, playing a Rockets team that, as you mentioned, Brooke, has been very good. They have won 4 out of their last 5, beating the Jazz, Kings, Magic, losing to the Heat, and besting the Wizards in Washington on Monday. But they also play tonight. So the Blazers catching yet another team on the second game of a back-to-back. The Grizzlies were on the second night of a back-to-back. The Houston Rockets will also be on the second night of a back-to-back. They are hosting the Golden State Warriors here in Houston tonight, being Thursday, before hosting the Portland Trail Blazers Friday. So a chance for the Blazers to finish this trip off with a win, a legitimate chance. And if they're able to get Deni Avdija back, obviously that would increase the chances of the Blazers winning, I think, considerably.
Oh, I miss Deni. I miss Deni. I know how badly he wants to play too, so I just know he would come back as soon as physically possible. So I'm glad he's taken some time to figure out what's going on and, get back to his 100% self. But it would be very nice to have Deni Avdija back against Houston. That would be a gift.
He also complimented me on wearing a suit before the Grizzlies game, and he wore a Nike Pata sweatsuit as well. And I was like, what? I was like, I like your suit too, Deni. He's like, I'm not wearing a suit. I was like, Deni, that sweatsuit you're wearing costs more than the wool suit that I am wearing right now. So while you might not necessarily call it a suit, it is a sweatsuit, and it is worth more money than what I'm wearing right now.
No,
that's NBA life for you, where a guy's wearing a sweat outfit that it's like, yeah, that costs more than my car. So
yeah. No, I noticed that outfit last night. It was very Deni, very Deni. But yeah, I hope he's able to come back whenever he can. But that would be pretty awesome if it was against Houston. That would be a welcomed sight to see.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good place to end it on this edition of the Blazers Balcony. Greg also told me I say absolutely at the end of questions, which he is actually absolutely right about, and trying to address that, but maybe not on this podcast. This podcast, I allow myself to be the reverse version of myself, Brooke. So it works out well.
No rules for you on this one. You do
exactly. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. We will be back next week, likely from Portland. Brooke, we have missed you out here on the road, and it'll be nice to get the team back into town, but also a little bit of business here to conduct before heading back home to Portland. As I mentioned, 5 o'clock start time on KUNP, Blazer Vision, 6:20 a.m. as well for that game versus the Houston Rockets Friday night. Start your Friday night out by watching your Portland Trail Blazers, hopefully finishing off this 5-game trip with a victory. But until then, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Casey. She's Brooke Olzendam. You've been watching the Blazers Balcony, presented by Spartan Casino. Brooke.
Peace out.